Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Lynn Nesbitt. I'll be chairing the panel today. Joining me via Zoom are other members of the panel, Kent Seelan and Doug Marks. Our assessor is Victoria Ho, and our recording secretary is Jaswinder Kumar. We'll be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 2, 4, and 6 on our docket today. Mr. Kumar, please affirm the assessor's and applicant's testimony.
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you. Madam Assessor, please state your full name. Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Rocky Newfield.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kumar, and good morning, everyone. And I understand several items have been removed from our docket, so that's good stuff. So we will begin then with item number 2, 1220 Pembina Highway. Ms. Ho, when you're ready, please.
All right. So roll number 0309027100. Address is 1220 Pembina Highway. This is for the 2023 roll year. For the assessed value of $510,000. This is a property located on Pembina. As you can see on my page 4, I have some comparable rents for this property that are located with as close as I can within the geographical area, roughly in similar areas. I try to find older buildings with similar square footage in the leasable area, and closer lease start dates to the reference date of April 1st, 2021. If you can see on my page 5, we have the market income calculation for the property. We have the standard finish for the main floor at 2,214 square feet at a per square foot rental rate of $16.40. We have a substandard basement that we also included using a rental with the same leasable area using a rental rate of $2.96 a square foot. Parameters are 6% vacancy loss, 3% for overall expenses, $7 per square foot for shortfall, an overall capitalization rate of 7.3% to get an overall value rounded to 510,000. We have a capitalization rate chart on page 7, and on page 9 we have some aerial photos and Google Street View of the subject property. And then from page 10 afterwards, we have some we have the income and expense mailer from the response from the property owner. And that's my presentation for today.
Thank you, Ms. Ho. Mr. Neufeld, do you have any questions of the assessor's evidence?
I do. First question, perhaps this is more for curiosity than anything, is you've done this in a format for, I guess it's for, you're a candidate member of the Appraisal Institute, and I'm just wondering, is this done under the Mass Appraisal Standard?
Yes.
That's the not there. There's another standard for automated valuation models, and that's what I wanted to know, if it was for the AVM or if it was for Mass Appraisal.
For Mass Appraisal.
Okay. The other general question is was there a recent change in your department as to how this was coded? You're now calling it retail store. When did that happen?
At the moment, I am not aware when it was changed to retail store. I assume it was probably previously, I believe it was previously under, it was an office property, so I'm not too sure when the property changed from an office property type to a retail property type, because currently I believe right now it's being used for a old recycling company.
Yeah, it was just while the conversations were happening, I noted that there was a change in who was which one of your divisions was looking after it. So it's now moved from office to retail. Then is that okay? And that was for this cycle, not the last cycle.
I think it's just for the cycle. I wasn't aware of the ongoing issues for the
and on the physical side, have you had a chance to look in this building?
No, I have not been able to.
Well, on page 5, you've got some value listed for a basement. So to your knowledge, is this space rentable?
Well, we have it listed as substandard basement, so it's not a leasable, it's not rated for a full leasable basement space, like where
It's not demised, it doesn't have its own facilities, it's okay. When you compare the way you have it on page 5, and first of all, sorry, back up, page 5, was this all done by the model?
Yes.
Okay. Now the owner has submitted a different number for area than you have, and that's listed on page 12. Did you take that into account?
I was reviewing very quickly. I can, after today, I can do a further review just to verify the square footage of the property. Eridan also made a note that another property that we came to an agreement with, I need to do another review of the property for square footage issues also. But thank you for letting me aware.
Yeah, no, because they have a different number, and I'm just wondering if that would impact how it's done. And of course, we have the records going back for what year is this? 14 years on this, and I think it's always been listed this way.
Okay.
Now, but okay, and just briefly on the cap rates. This then would be which row you under retail? You've got 3 listed there. I mean, I know the numbers are, well, they're not the same. So what would you, where is this class? Regional, power center, or strip? Or is it?
I don't think it would fall under regional power center or strip. This is a small store. It's for a specific small, usually for regional power center and strip is all used for the intended purposes of a larger investor.
So more of a general category than,
Yeah,
and these
but I wouldn't.
3.
I
Okay.
don't think in the general category, I don't think this property would fit in any of these 3.
Okay. Just a question on your model. Do you know if they had any retail stores sales that were investment properties in the years before the reference date?
I would say there is, but I did not do the review, so I'm not too sure how many or which properties were used for the model to develop the model cap rates.
The page 4, and who selected these rents?
I selected the rents.
No, 900 Harrow, that's a newer credit union, correct?
Give me a second.
If it helps, I've got pictures of all of them. I could enter them in rebuttal. It might help everybody.
So, okay. 900 Harrow. I have it under the Association of Employees Supporting Education Services. So it's more used as an office.
It's in it, but it's in the Assiniboine Credit Union building, correct? At the corner of Harrow and Pembina.
I'm not too familiar with 900 Harrow to know exactly, to like picture what the building looks like. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, how about, but you listed as 1997 construction, correct?
It says, well, it says EYB, so effective year built. So that may mean that not necessarily the actual year built. It could mean that when someone was doing a review of the construction and any renovation or updates of the property, they may have updated the effective year built to a newer year, just so then we can model or taper off the construction, how would we say, accurately gauge the amortization of the construction of the building.
You are just assuming that though, right? You don't know, do you?
I'm not too sure.
Okay,
If actually built does not necessarily mean the actual year.
I understand, but if your explanation is an assumption, okay, I don't want these, you know, I didn't think we were gonna go on this for a long time. I just was gonna briefly go through these comparables, and I can do it this way, or I can do it with pictures and rebuttal, which I'm just sending in now. The next one is an office building, correct? 4-story office building.
I'm not too sure if it's 4 stories, but I thought this was appropriate because it was close by-ish to the property, and it was close in size to the subject.
2310 Pembina, at the time this lease was drawn up, was that the mortgage broker, or was that the funeral home?
Funeral home.
Funeral home. And 651 Stafford is, sorry, I just had it on my screen here, is a fair managed property, is a bicycle store.
Yes.
And 679 Pembina, I couldn't figure out what that one is, but that's in a 2-story strip, correct?
Most it probably is. It's an insurance broker.
Insurance broker, right? And 2855 Pembina is in a larger shopping center. You know what who the user is there?
That one. This one is another insurance broker.
Pardon me,
An insurance broker.
insurance broker. Okay. So all of these are, well, I mean, I'm going to put to you that these are all their original ages, and they're all fairly newer than the subject, are they not?
Yes, but this is the best I could find, given for the area, age. Well, I was trying to go for older construction type, because there's a lot of newer development going on along Pembina, where rents are going up, like starting rents for new construction is like $30 a square foot or higher.
Sure, and that's for new construction now, but and other than the funeral home, these are all in multi-tenanted facilities, correct?
I believe so, and this is, like I said, this is the best I could do, just given looking at the size, the leasable area size, older, and close-ish in the area with because if they're single tenant buildings, they're usually owner occupied, and so we don't have a clean net rent from a property owner.
Now, I have a concern here now on page 10 and 11,
Mhm.
10, 11, 12, 13. This income and expense statement, this is from 2022, is it not?
Yes, from 2022.
Okay, so this is actually a post-reference information, is it not?
But the information that was provided is regarding to information in the year of 2021.
It says for 12 months ending December 31st, 21, correct?
Correct.
So, I'm not making any crazy motions, because I think there's too many people who go overboard on post reference. But this is post-reference, is it not? Like the rent could have changed or would have been lower before the reference period than this?
Possibly.
Okay. And as well, the mailer, the questions on COVID, this was elicited in 2022 as well, correct?
I believe it's asking between January 1st, 2021 to April
Right.
2022, correct?
Yes. So I mean, do you, possibly think that this information may not be of great assistance to the board today because it's post-reference?
Probably.
Yeah, those are my questions. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Mr. Seelan, do you have any questions of Ms. Ho's evidence?
Yes, I'd just like to know how we came up with the 7.3% for the cap.
Pardon?
I'd like to know how you came up with the 7.3% for the cap rate.
It's built by the model. Given it's the retail, the type of property it is, and comparison of, and the model develops the cap rate.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Marks, do you have any questions?
My questions have been answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ho, I have a question about the leasable square foot. So, and I'll ask Mr. Neufeld when it comes to his evidence, but this seems to be what is there is basically double, right? Basement and main. So when it was assessed as an office, I guess I'm asking, has the leasable square foot number changed?
Trying to look at what was written down for the leasable area. I think it says 2,952.
Is that on the mailer? That's Mr. Neufeld is contending. I'm sorry, I'm getting some feedback. I'm not sure where the noise is coming from.
Yeah,
Is that on the mailer that Mr. Neufeld is contending is post-reference?
I believe so.
So what was in the previous cycle then? What number was used?
What was under the previous cycle? I was going to assume that the previous cycle would still be what I provided from the income expenses, which is, so the main floor is 2,214. Again, most likely that's the leasable area from the previous cycle. And then the basement is 2,214 also. But at the same time, I didn't thoroughly review this property, so given time restraints regarding this is appeal season, so I'm not too sure if there were any changes done.
Okay.
Like any shrinkage or increases.
Yeah. Okay, and you don't have any interior pictures of the
No.
premise?
No.
And none on file?
Not that I didn't look for it.
And you indicated that the use has changed since the previous cycle, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so previously it was assessed as an office, but now as a retail.
Yeah.
Okay, I have no additional questions. So, Mr. Neufeld, when you're ready, please.
Yes, thank you. No, I just sent in, I had asked the assessor questions about the buildings, and I don't have to go over this material. It's in your possession. It's just rebuttal.
Thank you.
To clarify that these buildings are, in fact, the age, they look very much like the age that the assessor has applied, and not effective year, but actual. So as to the main brief, firstly, the size area, we have two schools of thought here. One is what they put in their forms, and what they put in their forms is 2,952 square feet. There's a small kitchenette developed in the basement. The rest is unfinished. And in the past, as a bank, it was used for paper record storage, and now it's just dead space. The other school of thought is the way that a realtor or an appraiser would have to treat this space, and that is it's not rentable. It's not demised, doesn't have barrier-free access, etc. And nobody's renting basements. If it was put on the market, it'd be 2,214 square feet. Now, for us, it's not a major issue because we were looking at the actual income being generated by the site. And on our page 3 is the correct income and expense form. And this is a gross lease. So the gross income is 43,433, and insurance, property management, maintenance, and taxes. The tenant pays their own utilities. That leaves the NOI, actual NOI, at 25,561, and that's been relatively consistent over the years. Now the assessor has provided a post reference mailer, and I noted there that the income does vary, is different, and I don't think you can put any weight on it because it looks to me that that is a step up, a post-reference step up. And 2 years from now, we can talk about it. But for today, we have to deal with the appropriate one, which is the one we have presented. And then after that, we had applied the valuation parameters, and as we always try to do, is if we're using actual income, we should stick with actual market information and not cherry pick the assessor's model. So you'll note that we use a lower vacancy rate because when our view, we read the Johnson report, Fort Garry is relatively attractive. Now that number is skewed because Fort Garry also includes the Kenaston McGilvery area. So it tends to make Pembina Highway look better because they're in the same sample size. But that's what we're going to use. We also use non-recoverables because that's the way the market works. The official concept in the Appraisal Institute and most publications is that you should apply these additional costs for non-recoverables based on the community standard. Community standard doesn't mean the assessor's opinion. It does not mean my opinion. What it means is, what does the market indicate? So on pages 39 and 40 are, this is the old one, I haven't updated it. These are Collier's managed properties. These are actual numbers for non-recoverables. And the summary on page 40 indicates a 9.81% before considering asset management, which brings it to 13.3% as an average. What the takeaway from this is that some years are good and some years are bad on non-recoverables. And you can see buildings with multiple years, they go up, they go down. The idea is that putting an allowance should stabilize these over time because vacancies don't all happen at once. They happen periodically, and then you can have a few years of good operation. But, it's not appropriate to use the bad years and ignore the good years, nor is it appropriate to not stabilize. So the stabilized rate is 5% plus 2% for structural, total of 7%. That's the community standard, not what I think, not what the assessor thinks, and it's what the market thinks. Everything we do is really based on one thought: where does the money go? How much money is left after paying all the costs to pay the investor, and the investor includes the bank. So we don't include interest, we don't include mortgage, we don't include depreciation, of course not. But what we do is operating income, anything impacting the operations. So that's the message for today on the non-recoverables. I always have to bring it up and try to rephrase it and say it differently every time. Maybe no, it's been an ongoing issue with the assessment department, and they can't make the rules for the community. My point. Now, our shortfall is a bit higher, and it's skewed upwards. Now, you know that the assessor is using $7 and we have $8.98, and the reason we have a higher shortfall is this place is carrying an overly high tax. The tax is $5.53 a square foot. Properties like this should be between $3 and $4 a square foot. It is overassessed. That is why we have to use a higher shortfall. That's the major component of a shortfall. And you know, if this were reasonably assessed, we would use probably $7, maybe lower, or whatever it happens to be. So that leaves our NOI at 21,000. Our cap rate is not that much of a difference from what the assessor has done. We are 0.2% apart, and it's a relatively minor difference. But of course, on page 2, we explain why. And issues such as the parking is low, and it's a bad design from the 50s. It's a bank. It's an obsolete bank. That starts off right there. The bank declared it obsolete. The next user was basically a pawn shop, and it has changed users again, and there's a new tenant in there. So it's the risk of the turnover, the lack of interest for small spaces like this. The size is small, and the year built, meaning that it's going to reach the age when there's more deferred maintenance and more concern for having to put money into it. So it's just a touch higher than that. Now, last point I was going to bring up is previous year's assessment. The reason I was asking the assessor at the beginning is we are trying to resolve this, but the income has never been higher than what we're showing today. And the assessment department in prior years treated this as a bank and put bank rates on it. Now they finally changed it. So these previous assessments are in a different department and of the different division of the assessment department. But there's, you know, I think we're on the right track here. In the real world, this would probably be sold on the direct comparison approach, a rate per square foot. And what we have on it is 288,000 divided by the number you have to use, 2214. So that's $130 a foot, and that's a fair number for an old building on Pembina Highway with limited parking. And the Pembina Highway used to be a prime location, but you know, all retail has moved. It's gone to Kenniston, McGilvery. So Pembina Highway now is becoming more of a redevelopment zone, or a mixed use zone. Most of the uses across the other side of the highway are now going multifamily, which is interesting in itself. Thank you. That's my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Ms. Ho, do you have any questions of the evidence presented by Mr. Neufeld?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Seelan?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have a question with respect to the NOI. Can you please clarify if the NOI is $25,561, or if it's actually the $21,623, which is on, I believe, page 2 of your document, no, page 1 of your documentation.
Thank you. Yes, that's my problem with the language. The potential rent would be $25,550, and the NOI is $21,623.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Marks, do you have any questions?
Yes, just one. Rocky, on the square footage, the main floor gets leased out at net rent of $11.54 a square foot. but the lower level or basement has no cost associated with that at all?
Well, not the way I would calculate it. Now, the way the owner would calculate it, he would just take the, what did I say, 2952 square feet. And that's, what's
Yeah,
that?
2952, that's correct.
Yeah, but 25,550 divided by 2952. Yeah, he'd be at 866 a square foot if he included it. We're just disregarding it in the calculation for, but because it doesn't meet the standard for rentable. The strange thing is, if you used his 2952 and you used his actual rent, the value would be even lower because it's more area, which means the shortfall is higher. It's an accessory use, and generally, unless it proves it can earn its own independent income, we leave it alone.
Okay. Thank you very much. No further questions.
I was surprised you had a question. Usually they've all been answered.
Okay. I had a question about the square feet too, but I think you've answered it, Mr. Neufeld. So the little piece of that basement that you're referring to is approximately 700 square feet, roughly, give or take a few.
Yeah, I've been down there and I was looking for my pictures to show you, and they're hidden in an old file system. I didn't used to categorize them. I used to categorize my appeal pictures by hearing date. So I was trying to go through them all and find it. But yeah, it's a little kitchenette down there, break room.
Okay. And you indicated it cannot be leased in any way?
No, it's not leasable area on the appropriate with the way like my standards, the appraisal institute, we can't call it, and a broker, if he listed it for sale or lease, he can't call it space. The owner that has put it in, that's his business.
Okay. And can you answer me, in the previous assessment, when it was assessed using office parameters, what was the square feet used?
They use the same numbers that the assessor is using today. It's in my paper files. But I recall that has been our one of our big topics of dispute is, we appealed it as on the basis that shouldn't even be there, and if it weren't there, we really aren't that far apart, and I think we could come to some form of agreement. We'd be close.
Okay. And looking at your rent comparables on page 4, I think you're using 1220 Pembina, which is the actual,
Right.
as your, so you basically you have no other comparables, right?
Oh, no, the 1166 Pembina, which is just down the road, is $11, and it's a smaller thing.
Yeah.
And it was almost on the docket for today, but it went away. And we have some of the other older strip malls on Pembina at the top. They're bigger spaces, but for example, the top one, 2195, is an old Canadian Tire, which is repurposed to Giant Tiger. And the thinking behind that, when I looked at it, is the same concept of a building that's now obsolete for its original use and repurposed for another use. This is an obsolete bank repurposed for another use. Putting aside the size differences, that would adjust up to be a nice comp. 14, halfway down the page, 1431 Corridon, and there's several units in there. There's 1332, and this is the same ownership, and it's their same style of building, which is mid-50s storefront retail. They own about 5 or 6 of these in South Winnipeg, And this is their business. This is what they specialize in. It's not 1385 Grant. Sorry, right above that is another one. That one though just got remodeled, and I've got a doctor in there, so that rent drove up. Actually, that rent is misstated because it includes basement. It doesn't include the basement space, but they actually have a full basement in that building. So these are this is their business, what they do, it's not modern retail. It's
Okay. Are any of these standalone lots? You were questioning the assessor and the inclusion of strip units. So are
11
any of these standalone?
1166 Pembina is a standalone.
Sorry, I'm just looking for it. Okay, that's the 910 square feet.
Correct.
Okay.
And just trying to go from memory here. Well, further down the page, 961 Portage, which is a similar vintage property on Portage Avenue. It's a standalone. It's a month-to-month lease. 871, that's an older lease. We don't even deal with that one. We're trying to update these as we go along. Those are the two that the more recent ones that I noted.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. That concludes my questions as well. Okay, we'll now move on to, let's all just take a minute to get there. Item number 4 on our agenda. Having troubles opening it. Give me a minute. Okay, item number 4 on our agenda is 1004 St. Mary's Road. I'll ask the assessor to read in the particulars, and I see we have an issue regarding burden of proof to be placed on the applicant. So we'll deal with that issue before we deal with assessment. So Ms. Ho, can you please introduce the property and speak to your request for the burden of proof to be placed on applicant for non-co-op, please?
Okay, so file number 22-2376, roll number 080036688500. The address is 1004 St. Mary's Road. Regarding the roll year of 2023, and the assessed value for the assessed value of $375,000. There is an issue of non-cooperation since we did not receive a response from the property owner in regards to this regarding this property and for a request for income and expense mailers. As you can see on page 10 to page 13. It has been delivered, and it was sent to the subject property, and there was a signature upon receipt. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, Mr. Neufeld, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. I just also sent the board our response to it as well.
Okay. Well, perhaps you can ask questions of the assessor, and then we'll.
On the title and the tax bill, who are listed as the owners?
Margaret Clancy, Michael Clancy, Richard Clancy.
And the letter was addressed to who?
I think it was Michael Clancy.
Which page are you looking at?
No, it's not on the page. This was when I was reviewing and if I recall, that's what I remember seeing when I was reviewing our mailing address for tax bills. It had I remember seeing 3 different recipients, and then and I remember seeing 2 of them was to Michael Clancy. But that's all I can remember from memory at the moment.
Okay, well, I'm just looking at page 14 and 15.
Yep.
Now, I see that there's, these are 2 different letters or 2 letters.
Yep.
Did each of these parties get sent this letter?
Yes. Or, well, I guess it says, well, top of it, so on page 14 says Margaret and Richard Clancy, CO Michael Clancy, and then page 15, Michael Clancy. So, and still both of them are addressed, both letters are addressed to to the same location.
Okay.
1014 St. Mary's.
Now, the top one, page 14, are you aware that Margaret and Richard are deceased?
No, I'm not aware.
Okay. But this isn't addressed. I mean, I get these communication from the assessment department too, and I have 2 names in the title, myself and my spouse. We each get addressed a letter sent to us that says the same ownership on it, but that's not the way this is done, is it? You just address people separately?
I think it was because of how the titles may have been issued or was registered for ownership. I'm not too sure why it was set up like in this sort of way. In that there's 2 different there's 2 sets of letters to the same address. If Richard and Margaret are deceased, the current owner that could update the property title and the department will update it accordingly.
Certainly they could do that, but isn't it the responsibility of the assessment department to ensure that the notice gets sent to the right party?
Given that it was COVID, we don't have control over whether or not unless the citizens of Winnipeg want have actual mail delivered by the department individually by us in person to ensure every commercial property owner that has not responded to their INE mailer to ensure that they received it. We have the next best service, which is Canada Post, and the signature indicates that it was been received at the assigned address.
In regard to that signature letter, which letter does this refer to?
Well, what was sent in delivery date 2021 June 10th, and then there's a tracking number, I'm assuming, and then both of these are different tracking numbers. Yes. it would be, we would be sending the same, a similar, the same letter that's listed on page 14, like page 14, 15 as an example, with the cover letter, a COVID-19 supplemental questionnaire, along with the general I&E expense questionnaires and lease question and tenant verification form, which is
Well, what I'm saying, can you match the tracking number to the letter?
no.
So you have one, the one on page 10, there's no signature, correct?
Page 10, it said that there was a signatory name. So I guess they did receive a signature. And
Well, there's nothing shown here, though.
no. And then it said June, and then you follow on page 11, which is regarding the same tracking letter, June 10, signature available.
Okay, so we have, but there is no signature in 10. So now you're saying then the second tracking number, page 12, you have a signature, though.
Yes,
And do you have a name for this signature?
I can't read that.
Okay. And sorry, I'm just trying to, what is the difference between the one marked on page 13? What is this one? Why is it different than page 12?
So let's see.
So so this is a different tracking number. So,
Yeah.
so
there's a
this is the
different
one
tracking.
for the signature for page 10?
I'm assuming, okay, so what I'm gonna assume is that the signature was, so both letters were sent on the same day to the same address. And it said, so our page 10 says signature was available, but there was no signature, there was no signature for that one because it says signature available. However, they did sign for one of the two letters. So they signed for page 13 and page the second letter that we're showing here, which ends in tracking number 99CA. So page 12, page 13.
Okay, so you this is that, no, the signature, it does appear to be the same person, correct?
I'm assuming so.
Yeah, it looks pretty close. And with the notice that is discussed, that were received under these two tracking numbers, would one of these letters on page 14 and 15 accompany it?
I believe so, yes.
And what is the date of the receipt?
Delivery date, June 10th, 2021.
So what letter would they have received in there for which tax year?
Oh, I see what you're talking about. Because
I'm just leading you down there.
No, I'm sorry. So
That's not the letter.
it's
is it?
dated, well, the two letters are dated April 14, 2022. This is an earlier printout. Okay. It's not necessarily this printout. I thought this would be the exact one, but no, never mind.
Okay, so it's not the letter that was sent. You have not therefore attached the letter that was sent in this registered mail then.
No.
Okay. And what is the address? Do you know what the address for service is on the title?
From what I remember seeing, service was 1004 St. Mary's Road, is there an address update that I should be
Have you,
aware of for mailing address change?
well, that's not the question. Do you know what the address for service is on the title?
I think it's 1004 St. Mary's Road.
Well, okay, but you haven't provided the board with any evidence that mail was supposed to, official notices were supposed to be sent to this address, have you?
Like, what sort of evidence should I provide?
Have you, just a question, if you don't know of any, have you seen anything, something that directs you to send notices to this address?
I was looking at our old into our tax system, see what was the mailing address for for 1004 St. Mary's, and it was 1004 St. Mary's.
So well, okay, but you don't have anything to show us today, would be my question.
Well, there's the page 14, the incorrect letter that I apparently indicated. It says the address for the mailing address is 1014 St. Mary's Road. In regards to property address 1004 St. Mary's Road. The request for a property sale at income and expense information.
That's the letter. I'm asking if you ever have anything to show the board that you were told to send it to 1004 St. Mary's.
I thought so. This letter wouldn't be adequate to provide.
Well, it's fine if you don't. I mean, I'm going to tell you that the address I'm titled is not the same as the address you
Okay.
sent to. So at some point, did someone tell you, and can you show us that they told you to send it?
No, but
On page 3,
mhm.
you say that the previous year's was received.
I assume so. Yes.
Okay, now do you know the circumstances of how it was filed?
No.
You weren't aware that they didn't receive it the prior year, and somebody else took it upon themselves to file it on their behalf?
No.
Okay. Okay, that's all the questions.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Mr. Seeland, do you have any questions?
Not presently, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Marks?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Neufeld, you've indicated that you have sent the board information on this.
Right, it was in a file marked 1004 St. Mary's response and rebuttal.
Okay. Mr. Kumar, do we have it in our file?
Yes, Madam Chair, I just put that into the share folder.
Okay, so let us give us a minute.
I did send a copy to you, Ms. Ho. Must be lying at the very top.
No, I'm not. I've got the wrong one, I think. Which one is it?
It's named as same item number 422-2376, and at the last is applicant rebuttal non-compliance.
I'm having problems finding it. I have pictures. I don't think that's it.
Oh, yeah, it starts off with picture. It's just the last page. I was being overly efficient with my
Okay.
email polishing.
Then I might have had it. Okay, so
What's it come
Okay.
up under, sorry?
it's the third item under item number 4.
Yeah.
I didn't get it.
Called 1004 St. Mary's rebuttal.
You got it, Mr. Seelan?
Yes, I have it. Thank you.
Okay, everybody has it? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Neufeld.
Yes. First of all, I can speak for these parties because this is my late father-in-law and late mother-in-law, and Michael is my brother-in-law. My in-laws passed away, and the title, which you're looking at page 4, shows address for service being 17-30 Victor Lewis. This is the current title. I don't know exactly what happened, but I was looking up probate the other day and it cleared probate and they never transferred the title of this property. So it's in limbo. Michael was going to end up getting primary ownership, but he doesn't now. Right now, I guess his sisters also have a share in it through the estate, and that's a mix up at our end. But as this relates to our case today, this is the legal address for service, and to find another address for service, if the city was told of another one, they should bring it up. And one of the issues with this property is they have not been getting their mailers at all. What we do here on the assessor's brief, page 3, or yes, 3, the responses that are received, my son does them, Michael's nephew. We take it upon ourselves to file on his behalf because he's not getting the mailers, never has. This year we missed it. He's never received the mailer. We missed it because essentially Michael's also extremely high risk COVID, so he's just closed the doors and shut down for that time period. We had no communication at all for the longest time, and that was this year. But again, it's not my son's responsibility or my responsibility to make sure that these get done. It's the city's responsibility to get them served. And through an unfortunate series of events, this is what's happened. The penalty was requested last cycle for a missed one, and it was requested the previous cycle for a missed one, and it's because the paperwork is a mess and it's not reaching the right people. And I can tell you without any doubt that those signatures are not Michael's. They're not his assistant. Her name is Shanoa. These weren't received. But those would be the only people who would be at that address if it was the proper service. So this is family, so we take it upon ourselves to help them out. But that doesn't mean we can fix the assessment department's problem. It's just a miscue here, miscommunication. And essentially, what our issue with this is it's multiple. You can't send letters to deceased people and expect them to respond. Just because you put care of, that doesn't mean anything. If it was the proper address, it would actually say to the estate of, care of, so that it was clear. That's an improper address. And the last time we brought it in, it was Paul Took, and it was really rough for me at the time. And Paul was so great about it. Paul said, "Wow, we shouldn't be doing this." But that was a very human side of the assessor we were glad to see. Sometimes these things happen. so they're addressed wrong. They're to the wrong parties, the wrong people. They were addressed to the wrong address. And the one which I know is been a major factor in previous board decisions is they didn't provide the letter that was to be sent. They have next year's letter. So the thinking behind that is, well, what was in there that they sent? Maybe it was the tax bill. Maybe it was an easement issue or something. We don't know. The letter is supposed to be attached. They have put in a different letter from a different year. Whether it's an oversight or not, we're talking about, the idea of they got to get it right. And the service wasn't effective. And lastly, I have just sent the case law. Normally I get Mr. Mercury to help me in this, and he's busy doing something else. And he said, send those 2 orders in. And it's just the case law from Mo and from another one that we recently did on service, just to say that service has to be properly affected in order to work. And the burden of proof is on the assessor. That's really, those are the issues, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Ms. Ho, do you have any questions? Sorry, you're muted.
No, I don't, sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan?
No questions, Madam Chair.
Mr. Marks?
Nothing for me, thank you, at this time.
Just a quick question, Mr. Neufeld. I see that there is a different address on the land titles registry, but when did this come into effect? Or
The
when?
title?
Well, on the change in land titles.
Oh, well, this title was created 1997, and it is still effective. There's no change.
So this is the original address for service since 1997.
That's correct.
And it relates to the particular property at 1004?
Yes, that's right. This is Lot 2, Plan 1795, as the title indicates.
Okay.
And I also know that I was involved with the sale, so I'm familiar with the transaction at the time as well. This was the original purchase.
Sorry, I'm just writing that down. And you said it was in effect since 1997?
That's correct.
Okay, and now I'm just looking back to, I'm just looking for that evidence that it relates to Lot 2, Plan 1795. Is that in the assessor's brief?
Well, they make us put the legals on our applications. It'll be on the application form. You have, I think you've got application forms on file.
Yeah, I'm just looking myself. I don't have the application form in front of me, so. Okay, I guess we will recess for a few minutes so we can deliberate the burden of proof issue. We can have the room, please, Mr. Kumar.
Yes, Madam Chair, just a moment.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to call this meeting back to order. The assessor's request that the burden of proof be placed on the applicant for non-cooperation has been denied. As a result, Ms. Ho, you will, burden of proof remains with you, and you can start with your presentation on assessed value, please.
Thank you. All right, so if we can go to page 4, I have some comparable rents. properties around St. Mary's and St. Anne's, ranging from $17 to $23.25 a square foot. Roughly a similar square footage to the subject property, and older what we have on record of and older buildings on what we have on record, and newer lease starts that are closer to the April 1st, 2021 reference date. Page 5, you can see the income workup. We have the subject property as leasable area is 1,808 square feet with a rentable square footage of $15.34. Vacancy loss at 6%, expenses at 3%, shortfall of $7 per square foot, and overall capitalization rate of 6.55%. to have an estimated value of $375,000. We have a capitalization rate chart on page 7. Page 9, we have an aerial view and a storefront and a Google Street View of the subject property. And then from page 10 and onwards, there's just the delivery and blank income expense folders. That is all for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ho. Mr. Neufeld, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. Have you had a chance to either look at the property or review the past correspondence regarding its usage?
I have not reviewed the past notes, nor did I take a look at nor have I been able to do an inspection of this property.
Well, do you know what it is being used for now?
Currently, no.
Okay, well, when this was prepared on the basis that it was a retail store?
Yes.
Is the land area appropriate for commercial uses, retail uses?
I believe that it's currently zoned as C2, so commercial. So it's I believe it's a commercial use. Yes.
Well, I'm not saying about the land for parking. There is no parking up front, correct?
You just park on the street.
On the
And
street.
then there's street parking, I believe.
And the ratio is 1.82. Is that something that you normally see in retail properties?
This is no, I'm not too sure. I don't have enough experience about that.
How many parking spots do you know how many it has?
I don't know. From the looks of the aerial view on page 9, looks like at most 3 or 4.
3 or 4, okay. And do you know what the typical or even what the planners require for parking for retail?
No, not too sure.
Okay. Going to your comps, sorry, I just had to make my note there. And I've sent these pictures in already earlier. The first one, this is strip mall with front parking, correct?
Correct.
Do you know what its parking ratio is?
No idea.
Okay. Second one, same Same idea. It's a strip mall with front parking on. And any idea of its ratio?
Nope.
No, wait, sorry, but getting back to the first one, who's the tenant at 172 St. Anne's?
Give me a second. Subway.
Subway, okay. And the second one on 1602,
Massage Athletic.
massage, okay. 232 St. Anne's, I don't know if I got this correct, but is that the Mr. Lube?
Yes.
And fair amount of parking on that?
Yes.
Front, side, rear, okay. The fourth one, which is our managed property, that's a sort of a neighborhood shopping center with a lot of parking up front. Santa Ana Pizzeria, is that correct?
Correct.
1504, which is again in a client building, the strip with a lot of front parking. That would be Fairstone Financial.
Yes.
And the last one, I don't know if I've got this right, 681 St. Mary. I have a picture of Keystone Finance. Is that the correct building?
Correct.
Was this a converted house or was this built to suit, built for this purpose?
I'm not too sure.
Okay. And so you're saying that these are comparable to the subject. Now, if I told you that the subject was a print shop, do you think that these are comparable uses?
No.
Oh, okay. I don't have any more questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Seeland, do you have any questions?
No questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Marks?
No questions, thanks.
Okay. With regard to your cap rate, Ms. Ho,
Mhm.
can you explain to me where it is on your cap rate? Again, evidence it's not reflected in any one of these.
No.
Can you describe verbally for this type of retail? Do you have the range for this type of retail, this age?
No. I do not.
Nothing?
No.
Nothing we can look at? Okay.
All
Okay,
right.
thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Go ahead with your presentation, please.
Thanks. Page one, at the aerial photo and the assessor mentioned 3 parking spaces, and that's correct. Now, the issue with parking isn't a question of legality. It's a question of utility. Right now, the planning bylaw requires 1 stall for every 250 square feet, which in this case would indicate 8 stalls. There is an exemption for buildings under 2,000 square feet. So they are a legal conforming use. But the issue is, does anybody else want to use a property that doesn't have 1 stall for 250 square feet? No, because you can't get tenants in, you can't get customers in. Street parking is not the answer. Incidentally, there's, well, no, that's Privacy Act. I can't discuss, but no, the street parking does not work. It's residential and there's a lot of competition for the street. In response to it, though, the owner never really cared about parking because that wasn't their business. They bought this primarily as a print shop. They did some storefront work for a while, and in 2019, just slightly before COVID, they actually shut down to the public. There's no the business from the street was like a lot of copying. Their business is volume printing, and the shop is a print shop, and they use copiers because it's actually better than the old offset now for their production. My father-in-law, who had this idea, started this, and his idea was to go to the copy places where people had copiers coming off lease, buy them real cheap, find another guy to service them, and he could do copies for under a penny a page. Because the big companies were charging 3 cents a page for maintenance, but if you bought them used, you took a risk. And he said, well, I bought this so cheap, if it breaks down, I throw it away and I buy another one. And that's how he started this high-speed copying, thousands of pages at a time, and to challenge the old traditional offset printing. With an offset printing, of course, is you need to have a plate, and then you put it in a press, and the press goes through the ink, and it dips in the ink, and it goes onto the paper. And his thought was, we can do it cheaper, better, faster by using old copy machines. And that's their business. And pages 4 and 5 kind of show you what the inside of the place looks like. Now, these were taken a few years ago, but I go there a lot, and I don't think it's changed at all. This is what it's like. They lots of raw paper, the copiers, the presses, and the building is in really rough shape on the inside. When they bought it, they knew it. The foundation was sinking at the southwest corner, but all they're doing is storing paper there right now, and it's got loading docks, which is what they needed. Or not loading docks, but a loading door, so they can bring in bulk shipments of paper and produce them, and then they get them delivered. That's the business. It's a print shop, not a fancy come in and you need your little project copied and you need 5 copies of it. No, that's not what they do. Those people go to Office Depot or something. This is someone comes in, I need 2,000 copies of this, and they do it on the high speeds. It's a very interesting niche that he got into, and prior to going to this building, they were operating out of one of the house basements, Michael's basement. I know because I hooked up his exhaust system for his press. But so this is just an industrial use would be the best use of it. Now, I don't know if the assessment department has a code for processing or manufacturing facilities in retail locations. It's certainly not retail. The building has very, very poor retail usage. That's another reason they got it cheap, because nobody wanted a building without parking, a small building without parking. Perhaps a conversion on it to a small professional's office after you spend a lot of money in fixing it up would probably be the highest and best use. But that's not what it is today. There is no capital in it. It is what it is. We put a nominal rent of $11, and yes, we use the same rents as before. We looked at them, and probably 1220 Pembina was our best comp. Obsolete bank, similar size. No longer capable of doing its job as a bank because it had its own limitations. This actually, I believe its first usage was the vacuum cleaner, the installed vacuum cleaner. Sorry, I forgot the name of it. The system that's piped through your house, central vac. That's what this was built for, and they bought it after for their print shop. So the $11, that's where it came from. Again, we calculated out the vacancy just based on St. Vital and what Johnson had. Same thing with the non-recoverables. So that ended up with our NOI of $16,978. Was capped at 7.75, and I didn't do this workup. And I think one of the things is that with the people who did it looked at it and looked at what the problems are right now rather than capitalization is anticipation. What could this building be? Not necessarily what it is, even though whether it be by capital that pays off or alternate use. So the keys on this property are the negatives, of course, are the low parking ratio, very poor, very limited use, damage in the building, both the foundation sag, and strangely enough, they've been hit by cars twice already, just right through the front window. It's one of those magnets for being hit by cars. I don't know how you can do that, but it's been done. The street front location is obsolete. You retail wants parking up front. So those are its downsides. With capital, you could probably see a conversion and hit a bigger number than this, I think. So I'm not totally convinced that 775 is the right number. Again, I would go back if I was doing this and think of what would this sell for on the market, and if we have it at 219,000 for 1,808 feet, that's $121 a foot. I would actually think, arguing against our own case, but I think that would be a bit higher. It would sell to somebody, a small professional who knows he's going to have to spend $100 a foot to fix it up, and he has a practice that doesn't. She has a practice that does not involve a lot of traffic. Accountants are probably like one of the users you would think of, without having the vehicle traffic and not having a need for parking. So on that respect, my personal feeling is that the property on the market would probably be fetching somewhere around 140 to 150 a foot, which is about 250,000. But I'm just telling you that verbally. If we're stuck with the income approach, we have to live with this number. But with the direct comparison, it would be a few $1,000s higher. I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Ms. Ho, do you have any questions of Mr. Neufeld's evidence presented?
So is the business and the landlord associated?
Pardon me?
Is the business and the landlord associated? Is it owner occupied?
Well, technically no, but you know, informally yes. The problem is that the title is actually in limbo because it's made out in the name of 2 deceased person and 1 live person, and their wills have already cleared probate. So that means that, and this wasn't dealt with on probate, which means, does the estate still own it? Is there a right? In which case, the landlord is my wife and her sister, and the tenant is their brother.
Then would the rent be would the rent be a true net rent?
No, that's not a real rent. That's just our estimate of what it would rent for. There's no rent in place.
Okay. Do you know the approximation? Sorry, I have no other questions.
Thank you, Ms. Ho. Mr. Seeland, do you have any questions?
No questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Marks?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Neufeld, just a point of clarification on your presentation, on your written presentation, page 1. You have in your box up at the top, rentable area of 910 square feet, but in your workup, you're using 1808 area. Can you explain why you've done that?
Yes, the guy who did it, I'm looking at him right now, happens to be my son and the nephew of the owner. Worked on a template and forgot to update it.
Okay.
So it's 1808.
It is 1808.
Yeah, and the 68 age is wrong as well. He never changed that line.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that too.
Yeah, it should be 1981, 1808. This, I believe, is 1166 Pembina's template.
Yeah, I wasn't exactly sure. Okay, but that doesn't matter. I just want a clarification on that. Okay, I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much. Okay, are we good to move on to item number 6 on our agenda? Would anybody like a 5-minute break, or shall we just plow through since it's the last one?
If you give me just a second or two, I just wanted to read this.
Oh,
Because
yes, okay.
The issue on this one is a bit different in that there's a second role that's associated with it.
Okay, what are we on? You're talking about item 6, Mr. Neufeld?
Yes, what's the file number on that?
223406.
3406, okay. Because we're not, this is an office, and it's a condo office, and it's attached to a common area and a utility room. And I noticed maybe before we start, I just wanted to ask this, if we could just clarify something on this. The assessed value, page 1, says 549,000. The workup is a completely different number.
So I can explain that. So the assessment department has two different valuation streams for, well, technically 3, but there's 2 technical valuation streams for commercial condos. We have the direct comparison approach, and we also have the income model for it. So the 549,000 is the value generated through direct comparison. But I prepared information for the income approach.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. But there's no workup on here on that direct comparison from the model then,
No.
right? No. You know, I'm going to make everyone's life easier, and I'll just withdraw it. Our issue is not with this property; it's with the other condo.
The other condo unit?
Yeah, there's one in the basement that's an exercise room, and that we appealed because they should have been heard together, but they weren't.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so Mr. Kumar, before we start, can Mr. Neufeld withdraw, or does he need to actually confirm because we're partway through, or how can we work this simply?
You never started.
They can withdraw if they want, Madam Chair. I will send them a withdrawal form and they will just send it back to me.
Okay, that makes everybody's life easier, I think.
Yep.
Okay, well then, having heard all of the items on our agenda, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much.